So you've started to get your elements drawn, and I want to show you really quickly how to move those to an output that you can use to post your fledgling draft images on Miro this week. So we've just been drawing these construction lines. I have a certain set of layers selected that are for those construction lines, and so I want to show you one other step that you can take. If I click in, you see right now I'm in my layers panel. This is my layer states panel. And so right now in my layers panel, I have a set of layers that I want to group together. I've got my construction lines and I've also got the frame layer. If I go to my layer states panel, I can basically make a default selection of those particular layers, and I'm going to call this construction. And now if I go back to the layers and say I had several different layers on, but I wanted to go back to the construction setting, if I double click, it will take me right back to that specific set of layers. Okay, so that's step one, is setting up your layer states. Step two is going to be taking this into a space that we call the layout space. Our model space is where we are creating the objects at a 1:1 scale. And our layout space is where we're going to view the objects so we can print and display them. So to get to that space, I'm simply going to use the layout command, and it's going to give me some options. We'll go ahead and default to some pretty basic pieces. The 8.5 by 11 paper. Let's do a portrait since my composition is vertical. If your composition is horizontal, you can use landscape. And the detail count is basically the number of windows that I want on my individual sheet. I'm just going to pick one. I only want one image there. And when I apply, you'll see that I go to a new space, which looks more like a page, right? So you can see there's my model and there is my page. And it looks relatively the same for now. So one of the things that you'll have noted, if this is an 8.5 by 11 piece of paper, my model looks bigger than it is. We know that that dimension is really 8. So what is going on here? Well, within this space, I have sort of three conditions. I've got the condition of the sheet, and if I am double-clicking outside of the frame, I am basically indicating that whatever I'm doing to the sheet. If I click on the square, then whatever my commands are, whatever I'm doing, I am doing to the window or the detail. And you'll see that when I click on the window, you will get some properties. For any one of these, you'll typically get properties. And so when I click on that window, one of the major properties that I'm seeing is the scale condition. So what this is telling me is that 1 inch on the page, this is my page, is equivalent to 0.826 inches in the model. And so what that means is it is not to scale. It is not at this, or it is to a random scale. It's to the 0.826 scale. But what I really want is a 1:1. And so the first thing that I can do in controlling that detail is basically type in 1 and return. And now I will see that my image has shifted back to reflect the actual size of the model. And we'll use that more in later drawings to have bigger effects. But for right now, that's really the size that I want. And if I took my multi-button mouse, I could start to move this around. And right now, as long as I'm moving and not rolling on my scroll bar, I'm still staying at that 1:1 scale. So if I had an idea that I wanted all of my images in this upper right-hand corner, I would probably position that. I would click outside and click the frame again, and then I'm still at 1:1. I would lock that ratio, and that will keep me at that 1:1 scale for the drawing. So now I've got a piece of paper where I can print this out. Well, this is great, right? This is sort of exactly what I want in order to be able to output a drawing. So you'll notice these panel states look pretty similar. I've got the sort of stacked pages, which is my layers. I've got this second version, which is basically the condition of my layers when I'm in the layout space as opposed to the model space. And you'll see between these two that when I click into the layout space, I've got a second group of colors. The second group of colors is really going to be how the object will print. And you'll see that the default, the expectation default, is that it will print at the same layout color or the same view color that I have for the layer, and that's not what I want. I don't want green lines. You may want green lines, but in this case, let's say that we want all black lines and we're just going to deal with line weights as our differences. Remember, we've got the sheet, we've got the frame, and we've got the space of the model. So while I'm clicked in this space of the model, I'm going to go ahead and select all of my layers, and I'm going to change the print color to black. And then that way, when I go to print, and you can see over here in the little preview that everything has become black, even though it still has these sort of colorful line displays while I'm looking at the model, it's going to print black. So I switched the view to show you another set of controls that you have in the layouts space. So you'll see my image changed a little bit. What I did there was simply go into my layers and turn everything on, because I wanted to show you how you can control that within the layers themselves. It's probably easiest to create a layout sheet and have all of your layers turned on and control which layers you want to see in the layout from the layout itself, rather than turning on and turning off layers and hoping that your prints come out correctly. So remember, we've got our sheet, we've got our frame, and we've got the model space. Within the model space, you'll see right now, currently they are all active. When I come in here, it doesn't mean I want to have them all showing in this sheet. So now that I'm double clicked into this space, I'm again not on my layers, but on my layout panels. I want to turn off certain layers. So I'm going to turn off the Culper image, and you can see the registration over here just happened. I'm turning off the Culper layer, I'm turning off my primary and my secondary, I don't think anything's there yet, and my tertiary layers. I'm leaving the frame, and I'm getting rid of my scratch layer. So now I have told the sheet, similar to what I did with my layer states, I've told the sheet what to look at and what not to look at. So let's go ahead and make sure that that is what we expected. So we're on page 1. Go to this printer, and we can already see that it's going to be a sort of black and white drawing. And if we open in the preview, we would also be able to see now it's a black and white drawing. So that's going to be how you can get your draft prints ready for our discussion on Wednesday. If you take the step to make more than just your construction layer, go ahead and make a sheet for each one of those. Again, the steps would be to go back to the model space, and I want to have a new layout. I use my layout command, and I'm going to just take the same defaults. And now you'll see that I have a second layout with this additional information, so this additional set of layers. Now again, you'll see that my scale is off. What it does is default to try to fill the entire frame. And so again, I'll want to go to my frame, change my ratio to 1:1, move my object up into the corner if that's, or maybe I put it right in the middle. And I'm going to go back to my frame, and I'm going to lock it. Okay, and then I'm going to double click inside, so I'm in the model space. I'm going to select all my layers and turn them black for my print. And then you can see over here that I will have a new image.